Welcome, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the Monday Motivation Spotlight. I'm Lesley Kaplan, welcoming you here every single Monday, whether it's vacation, whether it's morning where you are, whether it's evening, the show goes on. As most of you know, this podcast was born after October 7th, where our aim was to inspire and motivate, and at the same time, to give exposure to Israeli businesses, nonprofits, and organizations, as well as individuals making a difference. As with every week, I thank our sponsors. Thank you so much to Egan & Cohen Insurance, as well as to Lali's Flower Boutique in Jerusalem. So every week I say we have a special guest, and the truth is every week we do have a special guest because there are so many inspiring people making such a difference in this beautiful country of ours. As we know, we have our challenges every single week. There always seems to be something interesting going on in Israel. And as we know right now, the same thing too. So I'm going to replace my spotlight with the spotlight of my guests, and they can unmute themselves too. Good morning and welcome to Leora and to Eitan Ashman. So I'm delighted to have the two of you here on the screen today. Initially, it was going to be just Leora, and Eitan joined, and I'm delighted, and we're delighted to see you as well, Eitan. And they have a very, very moving and inspiring story. So let's see who, and let's tell about who Leora and Eitan are and what is Koach Eitan. So Leora is an educator in formal and informal education. And in 2017, her husband Eitan, who is on the screen, good morning, delighted to see you, who was a paramedic, a volunteer paramedic in MADA. He was a CrossFit coach, a business owner, and Torah scholar. He suffered a massive stroke in the summer of 2017 and barely survived. Thank God, after years of rehabilitation, therapy, and relearning, he made, Baruch Hashem, an amazing comeback. And together they decided to initiate and to start an organization called Koach Eitan, which strives to advocate and to educate and support and raise awareness with families and people about strokes, aphasia, and disability, and providing ongoing support for families that are going through that. Leora is initially from Toronto, Eitan is from Baltimore. They made Aliyah, or Leora, you said you made Aliyah in 1996, and you met in Israel, I understand. Yep. So good morning, welcome. Very inspiring story. I've heard your story, but many of our guests have not. So please share with us your story, you know, going back before Aliyah, making Aliyah, maybe even how you met, seeing you're both here, and moving forward into this powerful story of yours. Take it away.
Okay, thank you so much, Lesley. Good morning and Chodesh Tov to all of you. I'm Leora and this is Eitan. I'm going to do most of the talking because Eitan has something called aphasia, which means that Eitan knows what he wants to say, but not all the time the words come out. So I'll be doing most of the talking, and if there's any questions, feel free to ask. I am originally from Toronto and made Aliyah in 1996. I grew up in Toronto, where I spent a year in Montreal, and then came to study abroad in Israel, in Neve. And that is when I met Eitan, who had come the year earlier. He had come in I think he came in 94, and he was in Yeshivat in near Yaakov. And then he was in Yeshivat Kotel, and then he joined the army. And that's when I met him. My mom said, before I left, please do not fall in love with a hot soldier. And that's what I did. Found the hot soldier, and that was as they say, the rest is history. But that was great. We got married in 97, and we spent a year in Ma'ale Adumim in Mitzvah Navo, and then we moved to the Old City for around 6 years, and then we moved to Efrat. I am an educator by trade. My degree is a bit in psychology, special ed, but I did work in the school system, and then I switched gears and worked in the informal education system with the youth groups in Efrat. And then when Eitan suffered his stroke, I had to sort of switch gears and try to dabble in a bunch of different things until it was made clear to us that what we were doing in terms of educating people about what Eitan was going through and his struggles and challenges with brain injury and with aphasia, it became apparent that we needed to do something bigger because we had started to give support to a lot of people that had reached out, and that just grew and grew and grew and grew until we were really just doing our own thing. And so Koach Eitan was born about probably 3.5 years ago. It started off actually as a Facebook page right after Eitan had his stroke. We opened a page called Koach Eitan, and it was really just to update friends and family. And that grew into a platform where people would ask questions or people would reach out and say, I have a family member that had a brain injury. My cousin has aphasia. Do you know how to do this? Can we ask you for support and guidance like this? And so that grew into a place where people sort of came together to either learn or reach out for support. And it just grew into something that we never really would have imagined it would grow into. But the need for support is so strong that we felt that it was time to just start something. And so that's what we did. And that's been going on since I would say almost 4 years ago when Eitan was ready to take on that challenge, because I didn't want to do it alone. I really wanted to do it with Eitan. And also it takes time to learn about what you're going through. We had to learn what aphasia was. We had to learn what the effects of brain injury and stroke are. We had to learn about all of this by living it. And once we were doing that and giving and helping others do the same thing, that's when when Eitan was also ready to talk about it and to be in a public space and not feel embarrassed or ashamed or alone or isolated, which is when we said, okay, we can take the next step forward and together teach people, not just myself. And that's been really, truly an unbelievable, let's say milestone, but also blessing to be able to do what we're doing, because not a lot of people can do that. Brain injury affects so many people in so many different ways. And if you don't have a strong advocate to help those who go through it, sometimes they won't be able to do that. But if you do, then there is a real place for helping others that go through it. And then you become a lifeline to other people because you understand what they're going through, and they value that and they need that, just like I need it and just like Eitan needs it. It really becomes a lifeline. And so this past year, actually, we started our lifeline program in Koach Eitan, which we have volunteers that give support to other families, or the volunteers that have gone through different challenges themselves within the world of brain injury, and they now give support to other families, which is just so invaluable. But it took time, and we're still building and we're still growing. And this war alone, there's over 360 cases of brain injury. Many of them
that's crazy, by the way.
Right, and many of them are severe.
Severe.
But it also takes time for the families to reach out, because they go through a lot of trauma and a lot of shock and a lot of change. And for them to be able to reach out to somebody, it took me a long time to reach out for help as well, because you don't want to see that mirrored image, of what you're going through. And sometimes that can be very, very difficult. So thank God we are able to keep doing that. So we do that. And within our organization, we also, like I said, we also educate people in wherever it is, whether it's in schools, whether it's in hospitals, whether it's therapists, whether it's people that work with people like Eitan, or people that have had brain injury, but that sometimes don't really know what that person is going through. And that's what we try and and give them the tools of how to work with those people better. And now, even within the world of Judaism, language, Judaism revolves around speech and language. And if that's taken away from you, like I said, Eitan has aphasia. For those who don't know what aphasia is, it's a language impairment that affects speech, reading, writing, and cognition. And so Eitan has speech. There's different kinds of aphasia. Eitan has something called Broca's aphasia, which means he can speak. He has words, like you heard him speak, but his words don't always come out. And it can be very frustrating and very isolating.
Very, very frustrating.
He can't really read that well.
Your mind is thinking ahead of what your voice is and what your mouth is, basically.
Exactly. He can read words, not long paragraphs, and writing is extremely difficult for Eitan.
Extremely.
So writing is really hard.
The sign language.
How about the computer? The fact that can you do stuff online as opposed to writing?
So typing is also hard because spelling is hard. So Eitan uses a lot of emojis, and we keep practicing. And that's the only way that it's, you just got to keep going, keep working, and that's what's something that also people don't realize, that the rehabilitation and recovery is a lifetime. It can really take a lifetime to achieve or just to live.
Sure.
And so our support that we give, our support that we give is ongoing. It's ongoing, continued support for these families for however long they need it or want it. And so language is key to a lot of things that revolve around in Judaism. So if you take prayer, if you take Shabbat or your Shabbat table, if you take learning, if you take the Seder of Passover, all of these things, you require language or reading or speech. And when that's taken away, how do you still feel included within all of these things? So Koach Eitan really tries to innovate different tools and ideas of how to make or how to empower these people, and so they feel included, so they feel a part of their community or their family or whatever they're going, whatever's going on within their, part that they're partaking in Judaism.
Right, that's so important. So in other words, it's not just the physical side, but also the whole emotional side, how to deal with certain things.
Yes.
And I think we all know that when someone has less verbal skills, then you can emphasize the nonverbal and you learn to use the nonverbal more as well.
Absolutely.
To develop.
Absolutely. There's a way, I feel, and I think this just became apparent actually in the last podcast that we did, that when given a platform, when Eitan or anybody that has a language barrier is given a platform to speak or to converse or to communicate, it can happen. It can happen with patience, with understanding, with kindness. It can happen. And I think that people just need to be educated on how to do that. They need to just have a better understanding of what that person is going through in order for them to make that happen. But it's
right, and I guess to let the person speak fully, not try to cut them in with their words, and just be patient. And people often have difficulty, I think, being quiet. So actually being silent and letting you finish your sentence. Correct, Eitan?
Yeah.
You're 100% right.
Right. Instead of trying to cut in and say and finish the sentence for you, I'm sure that's how you teach people to actually stop, be silent, and let you finish it. Look, it's like anyone, no, not like, I mean, it's different, but someone who has a stuttering problem, without brain damage, but a stuttering problem, the same from that point of view, to let them actually finish their sentence.
Absolutely. We actually put together an acronym called Let's Talk, and each letter is basically like a tool on how to communicate with people that have language impairments. And so one of them is exactly what you're saying. Don't cut people off and don't guess what they're trying to say. Be patient, and let them
Yeah.
try and get out what they want to say. Absolutely. All
Right,
of
right.
that is found on our website on koacheitan.com. You can definitely.
Great. So besides people connecting online to you and finding you online, and the website for those that are listening even to the recording is koacheitan.com, Koach. You can see it in the tag at the bottom, koacheitan.com. So do you reach out to the hospitals that people can get to hear of you?
Yes.
You
We
have
are
a team that
starting-
goes around in different cities?
We're starting to partner with all the different rehabilitations around Israel. And so we've started with Haratzofim, and we're making our rounds, so that when they leave the rehabilitation centers, they have a contact, or they have someone that can continue their guidance and support outside of the hospital when they're at home, because that is a major transition, a very hard one to transition alone if you don't have anyone. You know, when we left the rehab center, the social worker became one of my people. But if you don't have the personality to, you know, be best friends with everybody, then it sometimes can get a bit hard. And so that's what we try and do. We really try to give our contact information to everybody. And so there's a lot of different WhatsApp groups with the social workers, with not, and they are always trying to circulate our information, because it's sometimes brain injury sometimes goes unnoticed, and we don't want that to happen. We want everyone to never feel alone, and to always feel like they do have someone by their side that they can talk to, and they can call for support whenever they need it. And not even like that, someone who checks in on them when they don't expect it. And then that's even more golden than the other way.
Right, exactly. Just the emotional support and their being there, never mind the tools and everything you're providing, is
Sure.
critical.
For sure. Because most brain injuries are also sudden, you know, that's brain injury is a sudden trauma.
Yeah.
So it's not something that, you know, you've been expecting, it just happens. And so that sudden trauma just can take you from 1 minute in one place and the next minute switch your whole world upside down.
Yeah.
And that is a very, very, you know, then the person either goes into fight mode or flight mode. And when you're in that fight mode, you're just going and going and going, and you really don't have someone to, you know, keep you right up when you sort of come down.
When you come down, right. So that was my next question I was going to ask you. Can you take us back to before Eitan had the stroke? Firstly, what did your lives look like then? What were you doing in average family life? And also, when it actually happened, you know, how did you cope? How did your family cope? The kids, you know, the first things that went through you, and how long this was, a couple of years, the recovery process, right? So can you take us back and just to the early days before and when this happened?
Sure. It was 8 years ago. We just had the 8-year anniversary on August 6th. And our oldest was about to go into the Army. And so we were going to take a family trip that Sunday. Eitan, at the time, like you had mentioned, he was a CrossFit coach. He had his own business. He was a MADA volunteer paramedic in Magen David Adom. He gave Torah classes once a week, very involved in our community and at home. And I was in my job, I was the youth director of all the youth groups in Efrat. And it was Saturday, you know, Shabbat day. Eitan had a headache, so he came home. That was really the only sign that, you know, now that we have was this headache. But he had a CrossFit session in the gym where he taught. So he said he was going to go do the session, and I was, you know, trying to get ready for our vacation the next day. We were leaving a little bit later, so I said, you know what, I think I'll pack most of the stuff in the morning, but I had, you know, gotten everything that we were taking. And he came home. Eitan usually stays up late and gets up early because he's also a Daf Yomi guy. So he stayed up late. I went to bed, and the next thing I knew, I was hearing chairs in the kitchen. We had 2 dogs at the time, so I thought that they were the dogs. and the chairs just kept on moving. And like I said, Eitan woke up early, so I wasn't, I was like, why are the chairs keep on moving? So eventually I came downstairs and I found Eitan on the floor, non-responsive. And we called the ambulance. The ambulance knew already that it was something brain related, the way I described his position on the floor. And Yashar, they took us to Inkaram, where they saw that Eitan had a torn carotid artery and 2 brain clots. And because of that, he suffered a lot of brain damage to the left side of his brain. And that's where the language center sits, on the left side of the brain. And so that explains the aphasia. If you know the brain, so the brain mirrors, if the damage is on the left side, then on your body, the damage is on the other side. So Eitan lost the use of his right arm, his right hand. He has no function of his hand, and his leg is very weak. So he suffers from chronic pain in his leg, which thank God we found a great center who's helping Eitan with that. He also suffers from chronic fatigue, neurofatigue, which is, when we do something, we can, we have the stamina to do it for a long time. And when Eitan does something, he does it for a little bit and then he's got to rest. And that even involves conversation, not just something physical. And Eitan lost all of his memory from before the stroke. So Eitan doesn't remember almost nothing from before the stroke. So he had to literally relearn everything.
Did he recognize you and the family and his siblings, everyone?
So not really, no. He says the only person he remembers is his mom. And so really, it was really just, starting from scratch.
So
even not even memory, it's really learning how to swallow, learning everything was from the beginning. He was in the ICU for about, I think would say 3 weeks, and then he was in the hospital Machlaka for about a month and a half. Then he was moved to the rehab center for another month and a half, and then he was outhoused for 6 months. So it was a long haul of hospital relearning and redoing, and thank God he's amazing.
And God, number one, he survived, as you say, because so many stroke patients do not survive.
Exactly.
That's
like
I'm
telling this really quickly now, but it really was a very traumatic experience. It was a horrible experience, but along the way we met and experienced so many miracles and so many amazing shlichim and people that have just come into our lives and enriched our lives in a way that I can't even explain. And the fact that Eitan is here sitting and smiling is a miracle into itself as well. And also aphasia is also with brain injury, there's not a lot of consistency. You can have a good day, you can have a bad day, you can have an up day, you can have a down day. Yesterday, I don't know if you guys know, but Lesley said, does Eitan want to be part of the podcast? And originally Eitan said no. And just now, Eitan was like, yes. So now he's with us. And so that's also, you just kind of have to sort of go with the flow and go with that. And that's something that I've learned to do, which is, thank God, just become very easygoing and very, letting go of a lot of things. Nothing's being perfect, which is fine. But the goal of, what we're trying to do is to teach. So when we go to rehabilitation centers or we go to neurology wards to talk with the staffs there, they always have a million questions because they really never get to see the patients afterwards and really fully know, because if you don't live with it, then you don't know. So for them, I think it's really an amazing experience for them to see Eitan and ask Eitan questions or myself questions as a caregiver. And that's really how you can learn. And so, that's how our goal is to really just try and keep learning by living and take that and help other people, whether it's through our Jewish inclusion tools, our prayer cards, our Haggadah, or whether it's through our Lifeline program, which is, giving guidance and support to survivors and their families, or whether it's just educating others. It's all interrelated, and the world of brain injury, I think, is not understood to its fullest. And people like Eitan need to be seen like the people that they are, in order to appreciate what is, if that makes any sense. It might
Right,
be
absolutely.
But
did you at any stage think of going to get care in the US, or did you find that the care that you got here was on par with what you would have got there?
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear.
Did you at any stage think of getting care or treatment in the US or rehab in the US, or you felt that Israel was on par with the rest of the world, that this was the place that you, besides the fact that your family was here, your lives were here?
Yeah. So there are definitely places in the States where they have different rehabilitation tricks and tools and things for different people. We felt that we got what we needed here, and we, our
That's
doctors
great to hear.
were amazing. Yeah, our doctors were amazing.
Amazing.
And not once did they say, try here or go there or go here. So we sort of went with what they, what they told us. But we do have people that have reached out that have definitely gone and done treatment in the States in different areas. But it's also not to say that I haven't spoken to different places there and gotten advice or gotten different ways of how to do things here. We just didn't have to go there. So I think it's very invaluable to meet different people all around the world and take their, whatever they have to offer.
Right. Well, absolutely. Moving forward, what are the upcoming projects for Koach Eitan? Any personal projects you'd like to share?
So we're growing. We'd always love the support. We are currently working on our Lifeline, the Koach Eitan Lifeline, which like I said, gives support to survivors and the families of brain injury. And we are working on our No Sukkah decorations by Eitan Ashman. And our Rosh Hashanah blessing cards, inclusion blessing cards, which you can definitely see online, hopefully by next week.
Right. Okay. Fabulous. So talking of online, you said it's koacheitan.com. If anyone would like to volunteer, if anyone would like to donate, Koach, that's Koach, Eitan, EITAN.com. Wow. Thank you so much to Leora and Eitan Ashman for sharing your very powerful story. And as you know, not everyone can just pick up, firstly, to have gone through what you've gone through, but to actually start an organization and an initiative to help other people when you're still going through so many challenges, I'm sure, on a day-to-day basis, things that on the one hand you've probably gotten used to, but other things not. So kol hakavod to you for making our country, our little country, a much better place, helping so many people both locally and abroad. And we wish you both, and of course Koach Eitan, much success and only good health, B'ezrat Hashem. And we hope to, stay in contact and hear wonderful things about you and the things that you are doing. Thank you to everyone for joining the Monday Motivation Spotlight. Whether you joined us live, which is always fabulous, or whether you're watching the recording from wherever you are in the world. This is brought to you from Israel. I'm Lesley Kaplan. I thank, again, our sponsors, Eger & Cohen Insurance, as well as Lali's Flower Boutique in Jerusalem. Am Yisrael Chai, Chodesh Tov, maybe only here, good news, thinking of our soldiers, thinking of our hostages, and you should have a wonderful day. And may the rest of the summer be quiet, B'ezrat Hashem. Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you again, Leora and Eitan. It was wonderful hosting you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.